with this, making this inquiry happen. And I commend her for her bravery in holding those responsible to account, because it is not an easy job, and I speak now from experience. I am privileged, of course, to be Telford's MP and to have the platform to speak up for victims. And I am grateful that there are other members of this House who take the same opportunity, because it is in this way that together we will slowly, bit by bit, building on the shoulders of those that have gone before us, make change really happen.
Minister Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would like to thank my honourable friend, the member of Telford, for securing this incredibly important and moving debate. She has worked tirelessly on these issues. Her perseverance has helped to ensure this report has been published, and the horrendous way that over 1,000 children in Telford were failed has been exposed. I'm sure members will join me in commending her efforts alongside those of other members present who are also driving change on behalf of victims in their constituencies across the country, including my honourable friend, the member for Keighley and Ilkley, honourable member for Blackpool South, and acknowledging Blackpool South and acknowledging the work of the honourable member for Rotherham as well. The abuse suffered by the many victims in Telford is truly sickening. My thoughts are with them, and so shockingly detailed, children were failed over and over again by those who should have protected them. I pay tribute to the victims and survivors in Telford and to all of those who've shared their experiences. They have suffered unthinkable ordeals. Sadly, we cannot undo what happened in the past. But what we can and must do is take every possible step to ensure others are not let down as they were. The independent inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Telford has produced a thorough and measured assessment of how local services responded to child sexual exploitation as far back as the 1970s. And I am grateful to the inquiry for its comprehensive and hard-hitting exposure of the scale of the failures in this response. The inquiry does acknowledge that the frontline responses of services in Telford has improved in recent years, and it is that the 47 recommendations made for the local frontline services in Telford have been accepted. The mode of offending and the failures of the police and other services detailed in this report are all too familiar. Shocking though it is, the fact is what happened in Telford has happened in many other places. Of course I will.
I'd like to begin by saying how much I admire the Honourable Member for Telford. She has really battled to get this inquiry, and I know she will keep on battling to get its recommendations imparted. But, Minister, can I ask two very specific things? One, I'm very glad that pre-charge bail has now come back onto statute, but it hasn't been implemented, and it's really hampering with ongoing investigations into perpetrators, not least because many of them have dual nationality, so they don't have the ability to take passports away. But the other thing, we're very fortunate in Rotherham because we have the National Crime Agency. But I only realised very recently that perpetrators who have been brought in for questioning have to voluntarily come in to be charged. So I wonder if the Minister could look into the power of charging, particularly in these very, very challenging cases.
I thank the Honourable Member for Rotherham for the intervention, and if I may, I will get back to you on that, given our current situation that we find ourselves in. As the public rightly expects, there have been significant changes in how local authorities and the police safeguard children since the appalling abuse that took place in Rotherham, Oldham and elsewhere across the country was first exposed a decade ago. And recognition of child sexual exploitation has increased significantly in recent years, with individual police forces taking action to improve their responses. And the National Police Chiefs Council lead for this issue. DCC Ian Critchley is working to drive up performance nationally. As with any issue relating to public protection, and particularly protection of children, the pursuit of improvement needs to be relentless. We're supporting the police in that effort through investment and thorough strategic impetus. And we are already addressing at a national level many of the issues highlighted for the local frontline services in Telford. We're driving up data quality by funding child sexual abuse and analysts in every policing region, as well as having made it mandatory since March this year for police forces to record the ethnicity of those arrested and held in custody because of their suspected involvement in grooming groups. In July, we published an updated version of our Child Exploitation Disruption Toolkit, which highlights the need for police and local agencies to work together to gather and scrutinise data so they can identify and disrupt offending in their areas. And we additionally fund the Vulnerability Knowledge and Practice Programme, which identifies best practice and shares this with all forces nationally. As we are ensuring that complexity and sensitivities of child sexual abuse investigations are understood by policing leaders through the College of Policing training for senior officers on issues of safeguarding and public protection. We're also taking steps forward all the time, but we must not lose sight of the fact that things went terribly, terribly wrong in the past. Complacency must never, ever be allowed to set in. It has been made abundantly clear to the police that protecting children must always be a top priority. There should be absolutely no doubt that we will keep shining a light on these issues, and where shortcomings are identified, we will take action to address them. And that is why Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services have been commissioned to investigate how police forces across England and Wales handle cases of children-based child exploitation. Unlike reviews of historic issues, this will give an up-to-date picture of the quality and effectiveness of forces' efforts to support victims and bring offenders to justice. We expect the inspection to report at the end of this year. The failings uncovered in Telford and elsewhere undoubtedly demand swift and strong local response, and the government is ensuring that lessons are learnt right across England and Wales through our strategic national approach. We're working across central and local government, law enforcement and the wider criminal justice system, and continue to be recognised as a global leader in addressing this threat. Last year, we published the Tackling Child Sexual Abuse Strategy, which highlights the vital importance of all joined-up approaches and sets out firm commitments to drive action across every part of government and across all agencies, including education, health, social care, industry and civil society. More broadly, the Beating Crime Plan reaffirms our enduring determination to root out hidden harms and secure justice for victims in these cases. We're delivering on our commitments. We are putting victims and survivors at the centre of our approach, while relentlessly pursuing the perpetrators of these despicable crimes. And it is, of course, not for the police alone to tackle child sexual exploitation and keep children safe from harm. All statutory partners must play their crucial roles. And whilst the inspection into group-based child sexual exploitation is primarily a policing one, we also wish we want to make sure we include local authorities in that response. The events in Telford have highlighted the importance of an effective multi-agency response. Ensuring close collaboration between key partners is a key part of our strategy. In 2017, the Children's Social Work Act introduced the most significant reforms in a generation, requiring local authorities, clinical commissioning groups and chief officers of police to form multi-agency safeguarding partnerships. All of the new partnerships were in place by September 2019. These partnerships have been supported by a Home Office-funded police facilitator, who has engaged in every force in England and Wales to ensure they understand their new responsibilities and are making the most of this opportunity to improve outcomes for children and young people. In May, we welcomed the publication of the Independent Review of Children's Social Care and the National Review of Child Safeguarding Practice Review Panel. Both reviews make recommendations on improving multi-agency work to strengthen child protection, with a sharp focus on professional expertise. Victims and survivors have been failed in the past, and that is absolutely, utterly unacceptable. Through increased investment in specialist services, we're determined to ensure the victims and survivors get the help and support they need to rebuild their lives. Services protecting vulnerable children in Telford and Wrekin have transformed since 2016, thanks to the work of committed social workers and senior leaders. They are now rated outstanding by Ofsted and are helping to bring about improvements in other underperforming local authorities to help protect more families in a sector-led improvement partners. Nationally, services include the Rape and Sexual Abuse Support Fund and funding for Police and Crime Commissioner to locally commission vital, emotional and practical support services. The Victims and Survivors of Child Sexual Abuse Fund also supports voluntary sector organisations to deliver a range of vital national services, such as support lines and counselling to children, adult survivors and families affected by sexual abuse. Madam Deputy Speaker, it is also essential that we send a clear and unequivocal message to all the victims and survivors that they should come forward and report abuse. All agencies involved in tackling these crimes have a role to play in making that happen. They must strive every day to secure the trust of victims and command the confidence of the wider public. Are you sure? Okay. The Honourable Lady knows how much respect I have for her, but I will continue if that's okay. Thank you. And across the country, there are many amazing charities doing brilliant work to help victims rebuild their lives. In my own constituency, I have seen firsthand how charity Safe and Sound transforms lives by providing one-to-one support for victims. I want to pay tribute to all involved with Safe and Sound and to all the work that they do to support victims and other charities that do the same. In closing, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to thank all the members who have contributed to this debate, reminding us who exactly is at the heart of this for all of us. The abuse perpetrated in Telford was sickening. The failings that occurred were shocking. We owe it to the victims there and in every part of the country to ensure that nothing like this ever happens again.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Order. Order.